All
So
right.
our first game we have here is Bryce Tiglon with the white pieces versus DanielNaroditsky. This was really a key match in the first round, wasn't it?
Yeah, this game is really important for the final result of the match, and I also picked it because I think it's pretty just exciting and insane, and a game where you look at it and you're not really sure what's going on. So,
Yeah, the end really gave Andy and I a heart attack.
oh yeah, like trying to figure it out, hard time, or like nerves, hard time,
No, like a heart attack.
like a heart attack. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you guys will see today. It's all history, so there shouldn't be any heart attacks, but it's a pretty intense position that comes up.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll click quickly through the. Maybe I'll click quickly through the opening part till something starts to happen. A standard plan from white, weakening Daniel's dark squares, and probably a comfortable little opening advantage for white. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I say this is pretty typical for this type of setup for black. I mean, you subject yourself to a slightly worse position, but you have some chances to make something, especially as the higher rigid.
Yeah, it's not like Daniel's done anything wrong, but if we had to pick, me personally, I would definitely prefer white's position at this phase. I think
Oh yeah,
pleasant opening for white.
Right, exactly.
So one factor in white's favor is this pawn on d4 versus d6 just gives white a little control of the tension in the center, and then the second factor is a little weakness of the black king.
I mean, yeah, definitely any trade on d4 would benefit white, as the d6 pawn is very weak.
Yeah. All right, so queen e3, and then this trade did happen. I guess like an ideal scenario for black would be to somehow manage to play d5 without having to trade off and achieve kind of equality in the center.
Right.
But I guess that was not happening this time.
I mean, I find it very hard for that to possibly happen because it's the b5 weakness, and I mean, e5 isn't defended that well, so.
Right. So let's just try this one time just to give...
ideal, but I don't see it ever happening.
Right. Yeah, so it probably doesn't work. Let's just try it once in one position just to get a feel for how it might backfire. So how does white take here?
I think even taking here, d takes d5
Yeah.
would work.
I think you're right, because if we take e takes d5, then after e takes d4 attacking the queen...
Well, actually, no, this might work too, as queen takes d4.
Yeah. Might still work, you're right. Queen takes d4.
Somehow this b5 pawn is very precarious.
Right, so I guess both variations are going to illustrate kind of the similar point. So here, after queen takes, knight d5, for example. At the end, black's going to lose this pawn on b5.
Right.
And we can do the same thing with our other variation, which was d takes e5. Knight takes e5, queen b6, a b6. Should we trade on e5? Yes. Now there's also f4, e5, which would be like a positional idea, but let's see if we take. This is the closest black's come to surviving in a while.
Yeah, but I mean, even something like this which is the best thing that could happen for black. Like, it's not something that I think you would possibly want to go for.
Yeah. But this one offers some hopes for black. White's going to play rook b7 and start trying to win a pawn in a moment. The other one apparently was more precise. E takes d5, actually.
Yeah, I think e takes d5 is very precise.
And had black gone this way, white would trade. That leaves this pawn less well defended, and then take on e5, and black can't recapture here, and this is hanging.
e5.
So good example. Like, the dream is to play d5, hard to do. And so Danya decides to sort of concede a little bit of the center here. And knight takes d4 is played. That improves the knight and looks at f5, which, as I recall, the knight gets to very soon. So king h8, queen g3. Most people might think that g5 and h6 look more tempting, but eyeing d6 can really hamper black's options and help you to develop your attack.
Right. And also, like, I mean, your queen's not doing too much on h6 or g5. They do look like juicy squares, but I don't see much happening there for that.
Okay. So Daniel played knight h5, queen h4, knight e5. And now Tiglon plays knight f5. And so far I have to say that the young IM has played a fantastic game. I mean, I'd be really happy with myself if I played like this.
Yeah, and this move almost forced g takes f5. Like, Andy and I were talking about it, how g takes f5 wouldn't be ideal, but then we started looking at it more, and this d6 pawn comes really hard to defend for black.
Yeah, the straight up threat from white is to take on d6 right now.
Right, and there's really no good way to defend d6.
Mm-hmm.
Moves, I don't know, the queen c7, right? But now also this knight on h5 becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And to move like simply bishop e2, this could possibly just dislodge this knight, and we could be having some serious problems here.
Right. So this knight would be very afraid to move now, so we might get something like pawn takes f5, bishop takes h5 anyway.
Right.
And now this bishop on f1 has been dramatically improved compared to everything else is pretty much the same as what happened in the game.
Right, except the bishop just somehow got from f1 to h5.
Yeah. So a strong move, pretty annoying. Danya thought for quite a bit on this next move, and I think he was already aware that this is sort of like critical time for him here.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you open up your king side, you tend to want to take some time to reconsider it. Because, I mean, g takes f5 is definitely a big concession to make with the black pieces.
Yeah. Welcome, Raiders. We're doing some game review, looking at a couple of the best games or the most interesting and important games from last night's match between the San Francisco Mechanics and the Seattle Sluggers. So we're going to be looking at games from Grandmaster Daniel-Naroditsky and Hikaru Nakamura and Wang Hao. So, yeah. So, yeah, these are some high quality games, and Josiah and I are going to be trying to figure out a little more precisely what was going on, who was winning, who was losing, and so forth. So that's what you're in for if you stick around. We're in this first game here, and White's played a really good opening. Black's under a lot of pressure, and here Danya makes this decision to play f4. Basically, he's willing to lose this f-pawn when he goes here instead of trading it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you trade, you encounter a very major problem. If you take e4 here, this knight's going to come in. Knight takes e4. This knight's coming to either f6 or g5, and I mean, that's not something that you want to happen for black.
Yeah, it seems like you can't defend those two squares, and once the knight gets there, you can't defend h7. So it's a pretty bad combo. Not to mention that the simple knight takes d6 in the center would also win the game immediately.
Knight takes e4 poses so many threats.
White is Bryce Tiglon in this game. I think you guys can see these names down here that are not, lolcatzz is not necessarily as revealing as Daniel-Naroditsky. But lolcatzz is International Master Bryce Tiglon from the Seattle area, and I imagine he's about 17, 18 years old. I don't know, kind of guessing.
He's 18 years old.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
hey, Feingold.
F4 was not played.
What's that?
F takes e4 was not played.
So F takes e4 was not played, and I think we didn't need to analyze very far to see that we didn't want to do that. So he plays f4, and he foresaw this when he made the decision to destroy his pawn structure with g takes f5.
Right.
So he goes g takes f5, then pushes f4. This pawn is sort of a goner, but at least by leaving this pawn on e4, he's blocking the knight, the rook, and the bishop. So when I was watching this yesterday, I very much praised this concept because basically, okay, it's saying black's position's bad and we might well lose pawn, but it's keeping all the white pieces from attacking your king for a while, so it's prolonging the game and making things tough for white, hopefully.
So here Bryce decided to play knight e2 to put the question on the pawn, and here Daniel made the decision to play f3 to give up the pawn. But this also opened up the g file, and I mean, really, you don't really have any other way to defend the pawn very well.
Yeah, I mean, this knight's coming to f4 regardless, so you might as well do some damage to white here, I think.
I mean, okay, so the other move could have been knight g6, which is the other candidate move here. But, I mean, your knight is retreating back, and I think a move like knight to d4 here for white coming to f5. I mean, these dark squares are just too much to handle for black with no dark square bishop.
Then the likely follow-up is black sort of scrambles to trade their bad bishop for your knight. But even when they do, things are kind of getting worse and worse for black in this scenario, because this pawn can come to f6 and this bishop can come to d3. So white's attacking prospects are actually growing despite trading that bishop off.
Yeah. This is not something that black wants to go into.
Okay.
So f3, which is, I mean, I think what a lot of us foresaw when Daniel went into this f4 f3 idea. So,
yeah.
Bryce took,
check. Knight g3, rook g3 is a blunder for anybody who's wondering. So basically, there's no candidate moves. There's king h1, queen f2, which is also not a real candidate move.
Right.
So Bryce plays bishop g2. And Danya goes to double.
Yeah, to bring the other rook to g8 to put pressure on g2.
Yeah. So knight f4, queen c7.
To relieve the rook of the d6 duty.
Right. Yeah, he wants to play rook c to g8, but actually this d pawn is always just so annoying. If white has the time to collect that, then the rook can come over to this side or over here, and
I mean, also the fact that you're just down 2 pawns now.
Just couldn't see his way to letting that rook in like this. Yeah.
Yeah. So he plays queen c7, so that now the next move he can play rook d g8.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, feel free to ask us any questions you have as we go along. You know, if we're going too slow or too fast, you know, let us know what you're wondering about in these positions. We'll be happy. We'll be happy to try and answer any questions you have. So, king h1 is played.
Right, and then now Daniel doubles on the g file.
Yeah. At this point, what would you think the evaluation is?
I definitely think white was a little better here, but black does have a lot of compensation, and in a short time control like this, a lot of mistakes can be made, and clearly, as we can see as the game progresses, black eventually got the upper hand. But I'd say here white was at least slightly better, if not much better.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Bryce has done everything correctly. So, Danya's made it trickier, but it's got to still be better for white. Unless we're missing something, that's what I'm expecting the evaluation to be here. So,
yeah. So here with queen h4, white really posed the threat of playing queen to f6, and this does a very key job of blocking off this rook. And then this doubling on the g file really doesn't do anything for black.
It can basically take all these pieces out of the game, while trying to win that. That would be pretty grim. At the same time, he keeps black from transferring the queen to e7, which might have been, black's next move.
Right, exactly. And then with the queen on e7, the white queen on h5 isn't really doing much. It's kind of blocked off from the game.
Yeah. So queen h4, sweet move.
Yeah, this was quite a nice move, which kind of forced Danya to play knight g6. Because if he doesn't, there's really no way of stopping. There's really no way of stopping queen f6, and that really bottles up black's position. And at that point, I mean, that really, makes white much better. So knight g6 was played.
Yeah.
Which forces white to capture. If we could say play queen f6, black takes on f4, and after a recapture, rook takes g2, wins a piece.
Yeah, that's good. That's good news for us. So yeah, so he forces this trade, which removes one of the defenders of g2. which is nice, but it also frees up these F pawns, the doubled F pawns, to sort of unblockade. So
Right.
still fair. F6.
So White's ideal was to play F4 and to get this bishop out to F3. To get this bishop out to F3, because here actually White found himself quite bottled up himself, because now this move Queen G7 is coming in, and this bishop can no longer move because of the rook on G1. And so White was actually forced to go into this continuation of Queen F4 and coming to H2, because this threat of Queen G7 was about to win a piece.
Yeah, the only thing I saw was Queen F4 to H2. And I guess at this point, just to increase the drama for everybody who wasn't watching yesterday, at this point, I believe Tiglon had somewhere between 10 and 15 seconds on his clock. And he found,
I think so.
And he found that the only maneuver here was Queen F4 to H2. You know, White can't play a move like Bishop F1 because it disrupts the defense between the rooks. So the only way for him to bail out is to somehow eventually play F4, Bishop F3. So that's what he wants to do. So Queen F4, Queen G7, Queen H2. Honestly, it feels like Black's got an amazing amount of compensation for the pawn he's down compared to the position he started with.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really see a turning point in this game. Like, all of a sudden the initiative shifted from White to Black, and I don't know. I don't really see where Price went wrong. So, you think maybe we can go back and see
I wonder if there's somewhere that he went wrong. Because
if you look at the position now, like, every piece almost can't move.
Right.
So,
but Danya needs something here, because otherwise White plays F4 and Bishop F3. So I'm not sure that what Danya did was convincing. What I expected during the game was that he would play D5 here, trying to start digging out this bishop.
Yeah, the problem with D5 I saw was that is now that I think I can play F4.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, you put an extra pawn behind the bishop, and I think White can sneak out just in time.
Right.
To save his position.
So if I take here, then after bishop takes, my rook's attacked, I'm kind of like walking into just trading everything.
Right.
And although I've left White with doubled isolated pawns, this situation on C6 is probably enough for White to win this endgame. Probably, right? Because they can even play B4 and they can march their king.
Yeah, this definitely is much better for White.
Super unpleasant. So D5, F4. If I try and play C5 to keep the tension, you can take, and I don't have Rook G2, Bishop D5, because I just don't have D5 covered enough.
Yeah.
So I don't have that. So yeah, so after D5, F4, it's not in time, huh?
Yeah, but I kind of, like, if there's a way for Black to stop F4, I mean, that would be great, but I don't know. I don't really see it.
You don't think there really was one? Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, the initiative shifts, but actually here, maybe there isn't really anything for Black to do.
Well, then maybe everything Bryce has done is good, despite the optical advantage that Black has. Maybe it's not enough to really matter that much.
Yeah, and that really testaments to how complicated this game was. Like, you know, seemingly the initiative shifted so much, and I think White maybe was able to hold the advantage for the most part of it.
Okay, well, let's try one more idea for Black. In the game, what Danya did was he said, I can't prevent F4, I'm going to try and prevent Bishop F3. And he did this queen maneuver of Queen H6, Queen H5. I mean, that's really good thinking. He's under time pressure too. So there's some good moves here, as well as some of the mistakes we'll find eventually as they just keep playing a complicated position in time trouble. I've got one other idea for Black, Josiah. How about this? C5. My plan would be to answer F4 with F5, and then to answer pawn takes F5 with taking on G2.
I mean, that's not even necessary here. After F4, rook takes G2 looks...
Oh, is already good enough. That's right.
Yeah, this is already good enough.
All right, so unnecessary fanciness.
Yeah.
So let's say C5 makes F4 not look that good. So what happens then?
Yeah. So I think we were looking at C5 here, and...
Oh, we've got one question that goes a ways back, which is why when Black played F3 did White take it? and not avoid it, which opened the G file. The thing is, this pawn's attacking a knight and a pawn. So even if white doesn't take it, black will just take on G2 himself. So black will definitely open up the G file, no matter what white does. That's what happens when you advance a pawn to a square where it attacks two things, is you're basically forcing the trade of that pawn. So if white didn't take it, then the file would still open and white wouldn't be up a pawn. So white in the game at least was up a pawn.
Yeah.
All right, back to you, Josiah. What were you going to say after c5?
Yeah, so c5, I think this was the very first candidate move that me and Andy looked at. I think rook takes d6 might just... I don't know, I couldn't find something here for black.
Yeah, I was wondering if he could do that as well. So let's see what we can do from here as black. Now we don't have d5 to crack this open. The stupid rook is doing something.
And if white can sneak away with this extra pawn and somehow unravel, I think, that would be enough to be much better.
Yeah. All right. Not a lot of options for me here as black, huh? The rook's well defended. If we play f5 to try and crank something open, then we trade off one of our pieces on the G file for the rook on d1.
I mean, even here, we trade off another pair of pieces right here.
And then things can get really bad. Yeah. So nothing really to do after rook takes d6, huh?
Yeah, I didn't really see anything to do here for black. I mean, for black.
Okay. So in the game, Daniel plays queen h6. What was he going to do after rook takes h6?
I'm not sure. I mean, at this point, I'm looking at the game right now. Daniel had 22 seconds and Bryce had 15. So
for those of you who don't know who wins or loses, maybe we'll just leave that as a spoiler for the moment. There are several twists and turns here. As Josiah was just saying, it's like 20 seconds for black and 10 seconds for white, and everything left to play for here. So rook takes d6. What would Danya do next?
I'm thinking maybe queen h4.
Okay.
And the idea is just to take f2.
Okay.
And still white can't play bishop f1.
Right.
So
that's right. He doesn't yet have the power to do that. So he's down to like rook to d2 maybe?
Yeah, but after rook to d2, now I think I can play c5.
Okay.
And literally all your pieces are tied down.
So now we've really got white tied up. An f4 move will always have rook g2, bishop e4. Well, maybe not always, but that's the idea. It looks pretty strong for black to do this.
And I don't see an immediate follow-up there for black, but I don't know. I mean, I think maybe Daniel saw this and...
Well, if white can't move anything, that could be good enough.
Oh, wait, no. Actually, white can move the queen.
What can white move? The queen somewhere?
The queen, yeah.
Like here or something?
Yeah, that could be annoying.
And then she comes back.
Yeah,
ha ha ha. But what if we did this as like a sack as black?
I think here...
King g1.
Yeah, king g1.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Just barely. Okay. So the white queen could maybe move somewhere like this.
So yeah, maybe we should reconsider.
Yeah, she seems okay there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Why not defend with the rook? Oh, in the variation I just showed, the point is like a tricky thing where you switch to the first rank if they block with the rook. But, you have to see the queen has the backward move in the time scramble. Yeah, so far we haven't really refuted white grabbing the d6 pawn.
Yeah, I don't know. It also might be just that, they both didn't see it. It's very possible as well, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were they were also partly thinking about the move, but when you're white here, you're also thinking of like defending as opposed to counterattacking often. Even though it turns out counterattacking is often the best way to get out of something like this.
Yeah, I don't think rook takes d6 is the very first move that comes to mind as white.
Yeah.
You know.
So white plays f4, and this might be a mistake. I mean, rook takes d6 might be even stronger. But anyway, let's see. Queen h5.
And even here, maybe rook takes d6.
That's what I was also thinking here was rook takes d6. But now, after queen e2, it'll probably be more complicated than before, right?
Or maybe even c5. I was thinking c5 here.
Okay.
Because now we have rook takes g2 threats. We have bishop.
Right.
Yeah, here, and I think I can take this.
And now you can take this way.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get her out. Yeah, last time you got out with king to g1.
King to g1, but I think I queen.
Now there's queen e3.
check. And after that, we can take.
I think rook g2 is good, exactly. Very nice. If queen takes, queen f4 picks up the rook. So king takes, bishop e4, king f1.
Maybe not. I think white actually might be able to get away here.
He shouldn't be able to. Go back to that variation. There's almost no way he can escape. Let's play queen f3 instead of queen c1. It's very rare to be able.
But after queen f3, then I go queen f2.
Right, and then you go. Oh. Huh.
I mean, if white ever escapes, you know.
Yeah, he's got everything.
Right.
Huh. Wow. What if white can escape this thing?
I think here, maybe queen c1 here.
Ooh, you got it. You got it. The d3 square is covered by the white pawn on c2 and rook on d6 at the moment. To the viewer asking about that, about playing queen d3 for black in some position. But this move is very sweet, because now the king has to try and defend here from this side. And yeah.
I mean, at the very least, we have a draw here, but I think there's, you know, practically much more. I don't see it immediately, but
yeah, no, this feels very dangerous for white.
Yeah.
Okay, so rook d6, queen e2. We tried.
But no, I think we were looking at c5.
Oh, right, we tried c5 first, yeah. c5, and then on f3 we had rook g2. Okay, if not f3, rook g2 is probably going to be even better, though. What can white play? Rook e6?
If you don't stop rook takes g2 here, it's
rook takes rook to e6 to defend e4 is certainly not good for white either, right?
Well, no, queen g1 here.
Okay. Oh, and then the king can come to h2 instead of g1.
But here, there's no rush here. I think maybe bishop c8.
Okay, you could do the trade once, rook g2 and play queen f3.
And then, oh yeah.
If the king comes to g1, you've got back rank mate now.
Yeah, we've got back rank mate.
And otherwise the plan is what? To play bishop e4, rook takes, queen takes, and it's sort of a drawn position.
Yeah, this feels very strong.
Yeah.
But, okay, so maybe not rook takes d6 here, but I was thinking maybe rook d3 with the idea of rook g3.
Okay. It also covers the f3 square, which stops some of those annoying things. Yeah.
But already I feel like white went wrong.
You do?
With f4, you know.
Okay.
Like, he had 15 seconds here, and his first move was f4. And I guess he didn't see queen h5, which, you know, was very strong.
Yeah. I mean, even in that other variation, I mean, just the move like queen e2 starts to be a very strong move for black, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, let's see, where's our other variation here? We had Yeah, I mean, we didn't analyze this yet, but against rook d3 or rook d6, while white's tied up, a queen penetration like this is very annoying. Even if it's not like tactically decisive,
Right.
the odds of dropping lots of pawns to this queen and not being able to untangle become really high.
Yeah.
So,
especially with that queen on h2, like, you know.
yeah, so once he's played queen h5, this is actually annoying. So this was great by Danya, actually, queen h6 to h5. I kind of thought Tiglin had blundered with f5, but maybe this position's a little bit messed up already.
I think f5 should be losing.
Yeah. I'm just saying maybe it's not his, like, maybe it's not too much to blame on f5, but also just that, like, there was not a good move at this point.
Well, okay, I mean, like, I think there's definitely...
There's going to be something better, but
right,
when you've got 10 seconds and you're struggling to find anything to do and all your moves don't look good, then you play something forcing.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, f5 definitely is a blunder, but you can't really blame him with 10 seconds left.
So maybe he should have done something instead of f4.
Yeah.
That rook d6 line wasn't so bad, maybe.
Yeah, I think, well, we didn't really find anything after rook takes c6, did we?
Nothing totally clear. We had queen here and c5, and black pieces were out, you know. We were showing that white couldn't untangle with f4, so white was a little bit frozen here.
Well, we were looking at queen c7, and I think queen c7...
Oh, then when we saw queen c7, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can turn him up if he's a little quieter than me. Or turn myself down one notch, and that'll balance it out, I think. All right. Cool. Thanks for telling us. Always helpful to know. All right, so let's get on with this because we got another great game to get to as well. So after queen h5,
so,
f5.
Yeah, so right, which is a blunder.
Yeah, forces Danya into this move. The rook is overworked on
Right.
g1, defending two things. So basically, white has to give the queen and get
here,
to this position.
Bryce has 3 seconds and Danya has 20.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think here is where Danya started, playing a little bit too ambitiously.
Yeah, he drifted a little bit in this position.
He did drift a little bit.
Basically, as soon as I saw this position, the one thing I thought was like, don't allow rook d8 checkmate sometime when this rook is covering g7, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
Based on that thought, one possibility is to just play d5 so that you're basically blocking that rook's file.
Yeah, I think d5 definitely here. He played it next move, but I think here d5 would have been much better.
Yeah. And another thing I even considered was like king g7, h6, just to get out of that simple checkmating area. Just run.
Right. Yeah, that too. I mean.
But my guess would be that the computer move would be something like queen e2.
Yeah, I was looking at queen. This was my first impression of the position.
It was
like
yours
queen
too,
E2
okay.
Because it stops f3, which controls e4, and you're going to take c2 next. I thought queen e2 was the way to go.
Yeah, because if we take this pawn scot-free, that's pretty good. And also our queen from here can restrain white's king from having any squares to go to.
Although personally and practically, I like your move d5 the best.
Okay. Like
Just
if you had
because
10 seconds, you would go for something like d5.
I would go for d5 because, you definitely don't want to let the rooks come in. And this really stops both of the rooks from really getting down onto the 7th ranks and back rank. Like, because that's what happened, and it was very hard to defend for Danya.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe d5 the most practical, queen e2 what a computer would do, which wouldn't be worried about anything and would just kill us. If white comes over with rook e1 to defend the structure and defend the king, then the rook's not cutting us off on this file anymore. And, the computer would start eating queenside pawns and not really care about anything.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Right.
But yeah, d5 seems simplest. It avoids rook takes d6, avoids rook d8. c5.
We could quickly look at what happened again.
Yeah, this is a good move, f3.
Yeah, so c5, which, Yeah, f3, and then d5.
Yeah. Well, it
So
still seems
king,
like the right move, d5. It still seems
yeah,
like the right move. It's
and
blocking the
here
rook. Rook
I
d6 would
don't
be
think the
annoying.
problem here was here d5. Yeah. So I think what happened wrong here was after king f2, queen h4 check,
Yeah.
rook g3. I think now black needs to play d4 possibly.
Yeah. Also, queen h4 is not necessary, right? I mean, just d4 right away is correct.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Queen h4 doesn't help
just
anything.
we need it. Yeah, we need to block the d file somehow
Yeah.
because that rook coming in is going to be devastating.
Yeah.
As we see in the game.
Now we've got the idea of queen takes pawn or of queen h6 going towards e3. Or we could just take our time and try and get the king out of checkmate. White's maybe going to play something like rook g4, looking to double.
Yeah, I don't see the king coming out of there anytime soon, though.
Yeah. True. Kind of tough.
I mean, definitely it's gotten very tough already.
Okay.
So maybe here, queen h6.
Okay. And now it's kind of hard to control that queen.
Wait, actually, no. Maybe you can already just go rook g1.
Really? Queen e3
And just,
check?
just never block the g file and king f1. Or even d1. Doesn't really matter.
Okay. Let's go to d1.
I don't think you can stop.
So if I play h5, then there's a perpetual.
Perpetual.
And there's basically no other piece that can cover g8 from here. Nice idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go rook g1.
Yeah, actually, maybe not. Already, white's got so much counterplay.
Yeah, I mean, black can always play queen f8 from this position to cover it. Right? Queen f8, queen f7, something like that. This is the right way to go. I mean, eventually he can win this.
This is your idea?
Yeah. And I mean, if this is my idea, there was no need to play queen h6, really, but you just go rook g4, bishop c6, rook g1, queen f7.
I think here, though, an interesting idea is like e5. Ah, you're covering it. Okay.
Now my bishop's finally doing something.
Yeah, your bishop's finally doing something.
I think the game temporarily
Yeah,
feels really competitive because black's bishop's doing nothing, but if I can eventually get it somewhere where it does something, it won't be so competitive anymore.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely.
And Chris in chat is saying that he wishes he had a friend who liked chess enough to sit around and analyzing games with him like this. And I have to say, Chris, that is the right thing to wish for, because if there's one thing that gets you good at chess, it's sitting around and analyzing with somebody. So I would think that Daniel will eventually dig out his bishop and win this game from this position here.
Yeah, it seems a bit passive right now, but eventually I think black can pull through.
Yeah. But it's quite a bit of work. He threw in a check. Rook g3 happened. Then he swiveled back this way. White gets this pawn. Now this pawn is suddenly quite problematic, right? I mean, it's threatening to queen.
Right.
So now this bishop is just going to blockade for a while. I don't know if this is really advantageous for Danya anymore once this white pawn got to d6.
I don't know. Here, it starts getting very complicated. So let's quickly look at what happened so we can get to the how game.
Yeah. So they swivel back and forth. Yeah, I mean, already here, white could probably get Oh, no, he can't get a draw because Danya's
Yeah.
got bishop f5. That's what he was counting on. Yeah, so that'll avoid the draw. Okay, cool. So he goes rook eg1. Naroditsky can't grab this pawn because of mate. I kept thinking that moving his h-pawn might give him a luft so that this wasn't mate, but it's true that you have to watch out for this kind of a problem as well.
Yeah, you might self-mate yourself. d7 here.
Right? And they're just like, what is going on?
I'm all of a sudden losing now.
Right. Switch back here, rook d1, but yeah, now this pawn's probably winning somehow.
Yeah, this is not good.
So very unclear what he should be up to. He grabbed this pawn on f5 though. That's good news. Now his bishop is so much better. I wonder if bishop g6 interrupting the pieces was an idea here.
Bishop g6 is an idea here.
So this pawn's threatened and this rook is threatened. Okay. Well, the rook's the more important
So the rook
one.
has to go to d7, right?
Does it have to go to d7? Yeah, I don't really see
Or
anything else.
c7. Or c7.
Oh yeah, or c7. That might be an important
Maybe
improvement.
that's yeah, maybe that's yeah, actually no, I don't know. I mean, now the rook comes to d1 and we play d7 next, and I don't see.
Right. So queen d8, rook here. And what's black supposed to do about d7 and rook c8?
We literally play d7 next move no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good for white. So even this is not good for black, is it? I remember during the game I was thinking like he could be losing too.
Oh
in
yeah,
this
I was
situation-
so scared that he was going to lose this.
So he played bishop e6, so he didn't go disrupt the rooks, but he kept his bishop dealing with the d pawn a little bit. Here. Okay, so here, what about a move like rook d1, just trying to push it through? Will he come to bishop d7 and keep it blockaded for a bit? If black ever has to give up the bishop for the d7 pawn, then it's two rooks against queen with the king trapped on the back rank. So almost certainly a win for white.
Well, not necessarily, but it's at least a draw for white.
Well, black would have to have an immediate perpetual to not lose that kind of situation, because his queen will be defending against back rank mate the whole game. And the two rooks should usually win. Yeah.
So yeah, I expect something like bishop b7 here.
Yeah. And then basically we would repeat going to break the blockade from this side. So that doesn't do anything. So queen c8, rook g7 was played. So he's threatening d7 now. Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Danya doesn't really have anything here, right? He's losing. This is where he was losing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Daniel's actually losing here somehow.
Yeah. So he went c4.
So what happened with c?
White took here.
And maybe here.
Perhaps unnecessary.
Maybe d7 just immediately.
Yeah. Because this rook actually covers a bunch of checks from here. So going to h7.
Danya so Danya offered a draw after c4. Let's see. Let's play king to. I don't know. Let's try to get out of check somehow. Yeah, maybe there's no way.
Yeah, see, this is an example where the rook's maybe better on g7 than on h7. Basically, in the game, everybody, this check was played.
Yeah, this.
And then he played d7. Oh, by the way, this doesn't work because the queen's defended by the bishop. Otherwise, that's a trick you can use with two rooks to win. But, you know, maybe in this position, d7 as well would be an idea. But basically what happens is he checks, so now his rook's not on the g file when he plays d7. So on queen c5, the queen had an extra square to check from. I think he would have just been lost if there were a white rook on g7 here. And Danya gets into the dark squares with the queen, and it's a draw. So that's how it finally ended. So somehow Tiglon like has to trade in his queen for not quite enough pieces, and then he gets this passed d pawn, and that's just enough to really hurt black. So the conclusion has to be that the mistake from black was allowing this e takes d5 from white. And you know, we've suggested just playing d4 for black as being the way to keep black's advantage. But it's kind of crazy that when you let white take on d5, you're pretty much losing.